Hey Email Geeks, post-production Stephen here. I just wanted to hop on quickly and let you know that you might notice Jay drop from the episode partway through. There were some connection issues while filming this, and Jay had some personal business to attend to, which meant that I couldn't rejoin us for the rest of the episode. However, hope you still enjoy, and here's the episode. So, hello Email Geeks. This is another episode of Let's Talk Email. Today I am joined by the lovely Mark Robbins and obviously my co-host Jay. Say hi, guys.
Hey, everybody.
So, Mark, we spoke earlier and you had a couple of ideas of what to talk about, and one of them, interestingly, is to do with your new role that you have at Customer I/O.
Yeah, very exciting. So, as of January, I've transitioned away from being a software engineer, and now I'm a developer advocate. So it's a new role for me. It's a new role for the company as well. So it's a lot of sort of finding out, like experimenting at the moment. So you might see sort of various bits coming from me all over the place, but it should sort of settle down and see what's working and what people like.
Yeah, so do you have a definition of what a developer advocate is?
So, I advocate for developers.
We like things this way.
It's kind of both ways. So I will talk to developers in the wild and like appear on podcasts and talk to people and say like, oh, here's how to make emails and here's sort of some best practices to follow. Here's some cool things you can do. Here's some experiments, and talking and sort of talking to the email developer community about what's happening, and then also feeding back into the company and telling the company it's like, oh, this is what's happening in the email developer community. This is all these exciting things happening. These are things we should be thinking about. So it's a bit of like a bit of a middleman there. Also, like little bits of, I guess, crossover with marketing, because I'm going to be out sort of talking about email a lot more, and bits of crossover with like tech support. So like helping customers with issues when there's sort of something particularly technical, which sort of is very, very niche.
Yeah,
Our tech support team are good and they know a lot, and they always sort of like, oh, I didn't know you like other people knew about this, which is quite useful. But occasionally there's very niche things come up that I need to get involved with, which is good. But yeah, so it's all a bit of that, and sort of, and I guess like the idea behind developer advocates as a whole in the world is like keeping the company informed, like, but also building the profile of the company. So I go out, I talk about email, I do all this stuff. People see me talking, read my blogs, look at my videos, and they go, oh yeah, oh Mark, he knows what he's on about. Cool. Oh, he works for Customer I/O, so they must know what they're on about. Cool. So it's that sort of building brand
reputation by association.
Yeah. Well, actually, Mark, I actually know you from your days at Rebel Mail, and I don't know if did you release a blog post about how to do the. I think it was like the checkout in the email before AMP was a thing.
Yes,
and it was to do with. Sorry, I was just trying to remember the term punch card method. Which is one of my favorite methods for interactive email.
Yeah, so I actually don't recommend that anymore. Interesting, because it's the idea of the punch card method is you have all your like loads of radio buttons at the top of the email. So and then some of them are checked, some of them are not. So it looks like an old school punch card, which you'd use for punch card code way back in the day. But if the reason I sort of try and avoid it now is because the sort of the flow of the content, accessibility wise, putting all of that focus at the top, even if you sort of hide them, it's still moving the focus as you tab across. You're moving the focus across the top. So I now recommend putting it in line, sort of in where the interaction is happening. Which we couldn't do before, but now that the has selector has been introduced to CSS, then you can do that. So you can just have like body has checkbox 1, 2, 3 checked, and then change something else anywhere on the page. So
Nice.
do like the same things, but just in a slightly cleaner way, really.
That sounds awesome. Just for my own curiosity, what actually made you think about coming up with that idea of like the punch card method?
So yeah, it was like interactive email. Like the first thing I saw was on the Campaign Monitor blog. I think it was from like 2011 or something, and there was it'll hover over something, and then it might have been like a hamburger menu or something like that. You hover over, and then something appeared.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, that's cool. And I started playing around with things, and I built a little game where there's a CSS animation fly running around the screen. You hover over that,
yeah,
and it's like cool. And then I built a little. I was like, okay, that's just using hover. It's like, well, what about looking at things that are happening in the web and sort of various things? So I did. Then I built a whack-a-mole game using radio buttons, and it's like, oh, that's cool. And then basically that's how I got the job at Rebel. Is I was sharing that and got chatting to the founders, and they hired me, and then we sort of, because they had already started doing forms in email. So
yes,
they'd already done checkout in email, adding this layer onto it as well, so we can do a little bit more interaction with the form. It all sort of came together from that, really, and then lots of experimenting. And I was given a lot of time at Rebel to experiment and really sort of play around with code and get things working. Yeah, it's fun, really. It's just playing with it, really. It's just playing with code, and that's what I enjoy.
Just having the time to just experiment. Well, yeah. Like one of the things you were saying about the new CSS selector, that kind of comes into it when new things are being released. Do you still get to play around with new releases and seeing what they can do and things like that?
Yeah, so with this new role, I get that's a bit more because it ties in a bit more with the new role that I'm doing. But yeah, there's so much happening at the moment. It's hard to keep up. But there's a lot of stuff happening, like because I keep an eye on what's happening on the web. I'm looking at like the Interop 2026, which is sort of getting some uniformity between the browsers of new features. Yeah, so looking at sort of new releases, what's coming out of the browsers, and looking at the Interop project.
Interop, that was it.
Interop 2026 is the current one for this year, but then it's sort of they do it each year for the last, I don't know when it started, but a few years, and it's just the browsers are trying to push things forward. It's like, okay, this is all these new proposals in the spec of HTML, CSS, and it's like, well, let's like get together and work on which of the priorities, and then we'll work on them together. So the web is progressing together. So when things come out, I like to try and test them. So keeping an eye on the Interop, but also keeping an eye on just general release notes from the browsers of new things that are coming out, and then throw it in an email. Does it work? It's all, find some test code somebody's built. Usually it's just something that I can just do quickly. Throw it in an email. Does it work? And it's like, if it does, it's like, oh, cool. There's maybe there's something you can do with that. So,
and you,
sorry.
I was going to say that I saw you did like Flex and Grid, which has obviously been around a little bit longer, but most people don't use it in email. And then you're also looking at brand new things like Random, which is so new that like no one's using it. So how do you pick what to choose and like?
I mean, it's just whatever comes up. So it's, if something new comes out and it sort of sparks my interest, it's like, great, try that. But the Flex and Grid, it was just from a conversation with somebody talking about it, and it's like, actually then I realized that Can I Email was out of date, and they had the way that they had Grid listed as not supported in places like Gmail now, and Flex was listed as supported. Now, Flex and Grid, both, if you set display Flex or display Grid in Gmail, that works, but none of the stuff around it that makes it useful works. But it's just a little correction on that.
So display grid wise, display grid originally came out, so not looking at like what was masonry is now lanes and how that's changing. Like that came out quite a while ago. Like I remember Email Weekly, we swapped it to grid about like 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, that we had the grid was in the mix, but we never shipped an email to an actual client with grid in it, I don't think. So it was like a random thing that we were kind of testing. Yeah, it's really cool that you get a chance to play with those things.
Yeah, it's good. Like I haven't shipped anything with grids. We use Flex, got like a nice little workaround for Flex in Outlook webmail because the Outlook webmail, it's not in an iframe, so it's sort of media queries are looking at the full width. So yeah, it's your columns aren't stacking, but you can switch to using Flex and then the columns do stack. So if you've got your preview window is very narrow, you can actually get it to stack your columns there. So I use it for that, and a couple other little bits and pieces I've used it for, but it's good. But yeah, grid is like I think I'd like to use more, but I'm always thinking of like, well, how can I sort of push that further, but also
around it.
Also thinking about the fallbacks, and like, so you get like, we don't need everything to look the same in every email client, but how can we get these sort of enhancements to work, and fall back and sort of have something similar to fall back to?
How do you think about that with layouts? Because like, obviously if you did a layout in a table to someone who received the email, it would look the same whether they looked at it on Apple Mail or Outlook. But then we're enhancing it for ourselves by using grid, for example. But for the person who receives the email, and also probably the marketer who's reviewing the email and making sure it matches what they've signed off, how would you say to someone, cool, you're using tables, it looks great, but why would you recommend someone does grid or something like that instead, so that they can, but in the end, it looks the same. So it's hard to kind of, it's like accessibility, isn't it? But like layout is even harder to kind of argue, I guess.
Yeah, like, so I guess that's why I'm not using grid, because I can't make that justification.
Yeah.
I could switch it around and put some extra code in, so it's where it's supported. This is using a grid layout, but it's going to look the same, and it's just adding extra code for like vanity's sake or something.
Yeah.
But like in terms of tables, like I'm very much in the ghost table camp and away from layout tables. Because it's just layout tables cause so many bugs. If you like look at the email bugs repo on GitHub and look at all the bugs that not related to Outlook, that in other clients, so many of those bugs are related to tables and like layout tables. So you remove that and you fix all of those bugs, and you've got better accessibility, and it's more predictable. So if you've got a div doesn't have any default styles. Tables do have default styles in certain email clients, so you lose your inherited font values. So then you need to start adding your font values again. You need to put all these workarounds for all these additional bugs that they introduce. So it's a little bit clunky to sort of read the code when you've got ghost tables, but having that sort of getting rid of the tables is very nice. It's so much nicer to work with, and also in terms of layouts, you can do a bit more with it. If it's a bit easier. Although actually, you've got display contents which can sort of deconstruct layouts. So you could. That was always an issue when grid first came out, is because you couldn't. If you had a table layout, you couldn't reorganize it because of the HTML. But now you've got display content, so that sort of gets around that. But still,
I've been talking to more clients recently that are planning for like long-term big company clients that are planning for an email design system or modules to ship for the whole company to be ready kind of end of 2027, beginning of 2028. So I'm having conversations of, we could probably do the ghost table thing. And then because we're hopeful that Outlook is not going to be the word rendering engine by that point, we can kind of, if we launch it sooner or Outlook delays or whatever, you've got the ghost table stuff in there, so it will still do what you need it to do in Outlook. But then if we get closer to 27, 28 and it is gone, then it makes it really easy for you to update your code, because you can almost just remove all of the ghost table stuff, and then you've kind of solved it basically.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like it's we can get rid of like a huge weight that's going in our emails as soon as we can stop supporting those old versions of Outlook. It'll be great. That's the dream.
We'll feel pretty spoiled.
Yeah.
Like, look at me not having to pull my hair out because something's not displaying correctly in Outlook 2007 or whatnot.
Yeah, I guess it won't be as fun then, will it?
Yeah, true. It's those endorphins you get from solving display issues, and it's just like, finally, yes, I've done it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In keeping up with the theme of new things and trying everything that's been released, where do you stand on AI? Do you use ChatGPT?
I do use bits of AI. I sort of just got into Claude Code. I haven't done much with it yet, but I was playing around with it today, and it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty good. But in terms of email, AI can't write email code like raw email code as it is, because there's no standards. There's nothing for it to learn from. And if you look at 99.98% of emails fail the most basic accessibility testing. Don't learn from that. Learn from the 0.02%.
Yeah.
So it's like learning from what's out there. There's so much like bad information available as well, and like incorrect things, outdated things. It can't learn from that.
Yeah.
But what it can do is work within frameworks. And if you're using a framework, like we've got one at Customer IO that I built. So it's brilliant. I've obviously used that one.
It's the best one.
Obviously. But yeah, or something like, MGML or React, or if you're building your own or using something like Mazel and you're creating your own frameworks as well. And it's then it's got that takes the rendering side out of it. And you say, right, here's my components. These are the properties that we can set on these components, and these are the values that we can have in those properties. And don't go outside of those boundaries, and it will render fine because you've tested all that, you've built that, and you know it works.
Yeah.
And then taking it a step further, then you have your design system built on top of that. And then it's so then it keeps everything, as well as it's going to render correctly, it's all going to be on brand. And then that just sorts all of that side out as well. So AI is really useful for that sort of stuff. And I think, so for like marketers building emails, if you've got a solid, robust framework with a solid, robust design system on top of it, then AI can be brilliant. But it's all about, I guess, it's the small language models rather than the large language models. So you're really restricting it. It's like, don't take all this information, just use this bit. And then
there's too many bad examples out there.
Yeah. So that's what it needs, and that's what we found to be working the best. Definitely.
Like looking at AI models on the internet. So there's numerous out there, be it ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, like you said. From what I've seen online, for code, Claude is usually the most recommended, and it even plugs into. So typically on a work day-to-day, I use VS Code as my environment builder, and there's direct plugins from Claude into VS Code, and it just sits at the side, and you can ask it if you're having trouble with anything. And I think I've seen on Email Geeks that a few, because I haven't really looked into Claude that much, but I believe you can build skills for Claude.
Yeah.
And I believe there's quite a few experimenting with building like email skills for Claude to specifically use. Do you think you would ever try building some of those in your job to try and speed your process up? Or
I'm a bit of a control freak, and I want to know exactly like I want to test every little part of it. I want, like, when I'm building a framework, I want to test every part of it. I want to be very, very strict and specific about what can and can't be done within that.
Yeah.
So I don't like using AI with that, and then because obviously then like to create these things. But I do use AI to help me build tests. So font sizes, different units. Okay, write me a test that I can send and like out to all the email clients, and then I can just easily mark off what works and what doesn't. So give me the code to I'm going to send and test, but that's not what I'm putting into production. That's not what I'm sending as an email. So I think in terms of sort of the code that gets sent to the email clients, I don't let AI come up with the raw version of that code, but I let it build with the framework that I've got.
Yeah, so you can run controlled experiments.
Yeah, so everything I do, it like sort of all the email client sort of testing, the experimental things, the trying new layouts and new ways of doing things. That's still quite sort of manual in that build something, send it, review the results in different email clients, and then test in like so many email clients. I really sort of try and push the testing like beyond what your popular tools are doing, and like use a lot of other email clients that aren't usually included in the sort of the inbox preview kind of tools that we get.
Coming back to a bit more towards accessibility, so, and like how you mentioned previously, as you, me, and Jay are aware, email has no standards at the moment. Have you been keeping up with your work with EMC, the Email Markup Consortium?
Yeah, so there's it's a lot happening sort of behind the scenes always, and it's I know sort of we get people do ask about it and say like, is it still a thing? It's like, yeah, it is, and it's like we meet every other week, like and we work through things, but it's everybody involved has a full-time job and a life. Definitely. And lots of things happening, and it's just it's hard. It moves slowly because of that, but it's still going. And also it's May soon, end of May, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, the 21st, I think, of May. Nice. We'll have the new EMC accessibility report will be out then. So it's I haven't got any insights yet. Hussein's he's gonna pull the stats for me in the next few days, and then I'll write the report from there. So it's So no
early previews,
nothing yet.
Improvements versus last year.
I'm hoping we see some improvements. But yeah, I don't know, because it's again AI. Is it helping or hindering? Because if you say like, set a language, set a direction, set a title, set a user H1, then it will tick all those issues off, and then that's great. You set alt text, and it's like great, and it will fix all those issues. But also, if it's like AI is just learning from what's been done before, it's just going to double down on all those issues. So it's how are people using AI like in the real world, and what's getting sent, and is it still maybe too early to make it to sort of see any results of that, because it's very new and a lot of people are playing around with it. But is that actually in the campaigns being sent out? Is that hitting the inboxes that much yet so it's noticeable? But yeah, so it's interesting, like, because so when I say AI is sort of with the accessibility, it can be good, it can be bad. It's again with everything with AI, it's how well it's trained and what it's trained on, and what sort of and AI makes mistakes.
Context as well.
Context is really important. So if you want to say, write some alt text for this image, is the AI just looking at the image and describing it, or is it looking at the context around the image and the whole email, and then working out the best description for that image based on all of that? So it's how is it set up? And it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting one to see how it pans out.
Definitely. when you mentioned about AI being everywhere, it feels to me sometimes it just feels like it's a buzzword everyone's trying to just shoehorn into everything. Like if you don't have AI, it's not worth anything, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's and yeah, I think it's getting slightly better now. But I know, like going back like 6 months or something, I was seeing AI getting thrown on like as a tag on things that aren't AI. This isn't AI. Just don't call it AI. It's sort of and yeah, it's but it is sort of, I think, because it's the AI, it's easy to sort of build with now. If you're building a tool, it's easy to add AI into it. So it is more honest about being AI these days. But yeah, does this need to be AI? Like sometimes it's like this is like using tokens, like boiling water for doing like something that will be quicker to do manually.
Yes, yeah.
But there's a lot of really good uses for it, and lots of really sort of things that I've been doing that I couldn't do without it. I've been doing some like reverse engineering stuff of things around email clients. That's really
that's it. If you weren't involved in the actual building of the email client and you're trying to reverse engineer it, you need to try and understand what each facet does.
Yeah, and give me some documentation, and I'll take that. But if failing that, then I'll reverse engineer what's happening and sort of try and get everything coming out of it like that. So it's it's a blessing and a curse, is the AI, I think.
Definitely, because I mean, like for good uses, again. So I've been working on some like JavaScript because in my day to day, yourself with email clients that don't really support JavaScript. So my knowledge about JavaScript from a few years ago isn't stuck in my head because I'm not using it day after day. Whereas I've been looking into things recently where it's called for me to have a look into using more JavaScript. So it was just kind of like, but then I use it as basically a learning tool. So why did you do this? What does this bit do? And then once I've got an understanding, then I can build on top of it.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think like, it can sort of help explain things, like complex things in like a simple way, because you can turn it into a conversation. It is getting better. It's sort of less hallucinations, but they're still there. So it's sort of when doing that, it's always worth like checking it. But when you're learning it, if you're writing some JavaScript, it's like, okay, why do that? And then you actually write the code and you see the result, and it's like, okay, I can test, I can see for myself that this is true. But yeah, I think it's tricky because I think as well with the sort of vibe coding thing that a lot of people are doing.
That's another buzzword that's going around as well, isn't it?
It is, and there is. I know I've seen people talking about like, oh, you can just vibe code a whole company. Like you can like replace all your tools, replace your ESP, just vibe code something, and it replaces your ESP. So that saves you all that money. It's like, well, it's going to cost you a lot of credits to build that, but yes, it can save you all this money. But do you know what that code is? Do you know how that code works?
How do you maintain it?
And can you maintain? Yeah, and like, are there any vulnerabilities in it? Because AI makes mistakes; it leaves vulnerabilities, and it's sort of, so then everything can suddenly crash, like, and it falls apart, and you don't have a team there to fix it up again. So it's like, I think that's something like within Customer IO. Our engineers are sort of encouraged to use AI for writing code.
Yeah,
but also, review this code before. Don't ship anything that hasn't been reviewed.
Commit,
and like making sure that it's actually this is good. We've got like you got loads of safety nets, like writing tests, like doing AI review and human review of before it ships. And like, there's a lot sort of like safety nets in there. And if anything goes wrong, which things go wrong with like everyone, like it always happens with any company, you've got people there who can respond to it and fix it like quickly and get it sort of things back up. And I think that's that's the key with it. And I think I like when I was seeing sort of one man band sort of like tools coming out that have been vibe coded, it's like I'm pretty skeptical of them
Yes,
because I
yeah.
think that could fall apart. So it's just, but it depends. If the person building it actually knows all the code there and they're using AI as a shortcut, then and they still know, then that's great and that still works. But it's just being slightly wary of it, I think.
I get that. So obviously, I've seen you at quite a lot of conferences. Do you have any conferences coming up with either Customer IO, or are you doing it as part of your role?
Yeah, so within my role, I should be doing a bit more. The conference it's gone a bit quiet, unfortunately, at the moment. But yeah, if anybody's listening and running a conference, they need someone to speak, give me a shout. But yeah, I've got a couple of small things. I've got a couple of webinars sort of booked in, but no more conferences as of yet this year. But I'm looking around. I'm sort of sending a couple of messages out and trying to book some more things in. And yeah, I love in-person conferences, and
I think those are the best.
it's the best because you get if I can get to travel and meet people in person, it is great because I work remotely. Like again, meeting people in person is great. But yeah, virtual conferences are great as well because it's a lot cheaper to put on. So more people. There's no sort of cap on tickets. Like more people can. It's more accessible for the world. Also accessible in terms of like travel. Like people who physically can't get out, people who can't afford to get out to the conference, people like don't have the time to get out to a conference. When it's virtual, it does open it up a lot more. It's just for me, it's not as fun. It's more fun to like meet people and like hang out and sort of
That's I think between like online webinars and in-person meetings, it's just a different experience. So again, like you mentioned, accessibility. The webinars can be worldwide. People can log on at any time, and obviously, after the webinar's done, usually the host sends a recap out. So even if you didn't manage to watch it live, you can catch up. Whereas in-person experiences, it's just that unique experience. There are no recordings, unless like part of it, if it's like a talk or something, the talks might be recorded. But
the sort of the conversations around like sort of over lunch or sort of in the corridors or like in the pub afterwards, that you don't get those.
Where the real ideas come from.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell me that twice. But yeah, that was, so I think the last conference I was at with you was the Really Good Emails one back in, I think it was 2022.
Right,
give or take. And so I remember one of the speakers gave us all a task where we had to work in a team. So like, other than me already knowing you from like talking on Email Geeks, we were just like put into groups of bunch of strangers, and then we had to complete that task where we had to create the tallest structure.
Yeah,
with like marshmallows and dried spaghetti, which was interesting. But you don't kind of get that with webinars.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like that nobody's got a good solve for that yet. I think in terms of remote working, there's some lot of good stuff has been sort of resolved around actually building community through remote working. But doing it sort of during an online conference, there's some are better than others, but it's a tough one to get right.
One thing I've just thought of is everybody has a kind of a unique story of how they got into email. I don't think I'm familiar with yours, Mark, to be honest. How did you get into the email world? How did it pull you in?
So I was on the dole.
As every good story starts.
I was unemployed for about 6 months, and I was like applying for loads of things, and like I couldn't get an interview. I've always been very good at interviews, and but just not good on paper, I guess. Like getting the interviews. But then
I get that.
a friend of mine is sort of guitarist in my band at the time. It's like, oh, come work with us. We're looking for somebody to help with marketing assistant sort of type role. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I'll apply for that. And went and they said, oh yeah, doing like email stuff. It's like, oh, you can build emails, right? It's like, well, I know HTML, I know CSS a little bit, so yeah, I can sort of.
How hard can it be?
Yeah, I could probably do that. So it's like, okay, well, here's a design, build an email, and then send it over, and then we'll have a look at it. And it's like, okay, right, into Google, how do you build an email? And I was like,
make it till you make it.
Like, followed a couple of guides and then built it and sent it back. It's like, yeah, that's really good. It's like, is it? Cool. So that was at the Learning People. That was in 2012.
2012, blimey.
And I was there for a couple of years. And yeah, and I was just sort of, I was building the emails, and then something started to like bother me slightly in that it's like reading these sort of rules of email, and it's like, well, you can't do this. You can't use, was it something like, you can't use a background image? So
yes.
It's like, okay, don't use a background image. And it's sort of, well, actually, but if I put a background image, it does work. And it's like, and I think we had a Litmus account, and so I sent it. It's like, well, it works in all these. So maybe I can. And it's like, oh, don't use lists. Don't use an Excel list. It's like, well, but it does work. Look, it works. And it's like, oh, right. So then it's like, so what else works? And I started. That's sort of what got me into like all this testing, everything, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And it's like, okay, this works, but there's caveats.
Yeah,
and that's it. And that's what got me hooked.
It's kind of like having that childlike curiosity.
Yes.
But why?
Yeah.
and then just exploring it.
And then, yeah, like since then, I just keep asking, but why? Like, why Outlook? Why?
I think that's what most email marketers scream at the top of the lungs, really. But
yeah, so from there, I just got playing around with like testing more things, and then built some interactive emails, and then it's like, got chatting to the guys at Rebel, got a job there. And then got acquired by Salesforce. It's like, cool. And it went customer IO.
Blimey. Well, that's a good run, though.
Yeah.
Considering you knew nothing about email to, in my opinion anyway, people can disagree, but you're one of the most well-known and well-regarded when it comes to email.
Yeah, people can't disagree. No.
They're not allowed to.
No. But yeah, it's like it. I don't know. It just sort of piqued my interest, and it's sort of at the right time, and I was just right place, right time, and it sort of made sense to me, and I found it interesting, and I think a lot of people don't find it interesting. So it's like great. When I talk to web people, they're sort of. I was chatting to Jeremy Keith the other day, and you say like, we're always thankful for people like you who want to do the email stuff, because it's like, no.
I think it's because I won't say there's so many restrictions when it comes to email, coming from like a web dev world where you don't have to think of all these challenges that you face with all the different email clients.
Yeah, it's like working on the web, you've got like a lot of different things to worry about, but in terms of like HTML and CSS, easy. It's so easy. With email, it's so much harder, and like I'm constantly learning new things like every day. Like every time I send an email test out, every time I'm trying something out, I'm like learning something new. It's like, oh, why doesn't that work? Or why has this gone funny here? And it's like constantly sort of getting more and more information. The sort of stuff I learned before and forgotten probably, but there is this sort of constant sort of never-ending sort of learning curve with email. It seems like with what you can do, what you can't do, and
that's definitely it.
Things.
It definitely comes back to like the childlike curiosity. Well, what if I try this new piece of HTML that's been released? Will it work? Will it improve things? Will it break things? And then it's also kind of like the hint of MacGyver, because you've got all these things working against you, but can you put this, and this together to actually get it to work properly. And I think that's where the magic is.
I think that's it. And it's sort of like I always say, like, one of the hardest things to do in email is 2 columns next to each other. Like it's so deceptively complex. And there's so many different ways of doing it, and each with their like pros and cons. There's no sort of one accepted method that everybody uses. There's lots. Yeah, it's like something on the web, simple, just like just flex. If you grid, if you want to be fancy, but like simple. Like and I would stick a little flex wrap in there as well, so it will like break down onto the next line if you get more content. Easy.
Yeah.
Like email, it's like, well, how am I going to do this? Am I going to like sort of effectively float 2 tables next to each other? Am I going to do a table and then to make it stack? Am I going to sort of try and use the
display
TH elements and then like display block them? Am I going to do inline block, but then to get rid of like the spacing, the set font 0, and then you have to reset? Am I going to do display table, which is my preferred method, is the sort of display table, but it doesn't stack naturally. It only works with a media query, so it's not ideal. But you get like the full height background color of your columns next to each other. So it's kind of cool. But then there's so many options and so many ways of doing it, and they're all broken. They're all hacked. None of them are right.
Yeah, and it comes back to that. There's no standard. There's just no one way of doing things. It's just basically, I think it's just an amalgamation of hacks people have come up with to display that, and then it's what you understand the best. So, like, there's so many different terms in coding. So there's like spongy layouts, there's responsive using media queries and things like that. But what I typically say to people that are just starting to learn is find something that just works for you and then build upon that. So whether you start using tables first, because tables are quite structured and it's quite easy to follow, then if that's what you're comfortable using, then use it. If it works, it works. And then later you can think of, well, what if we replace that table with 2 divs, and just kind of leveling up, I suppose, as you go along.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is. It's find what works best for you. I mean, also a lot of the time it's if you're working in a team, what are the other people in the team working with? What's their approach? Is there an established approach, or are we starting from completely from scratch? Like if you're like freelance or something, you want to or your new company and you want to set something up. It's like I think learning from that, and and like one thing I definitely would encourage people to do is look at sort of componentizing your code. So rather than putting like a table in, or sort of 2 tables or whatever for your columns, build a columns component, and then you can put the table code in there. But you could also switch that out for something else if you wanted to. And even I know people who some people use like for ghost tables, instead of writing the code for a ghost table, it's a ghost table component. So that will just, every time you use it, you just do that. And then if you want to change it at any point, if there's new issues that come up with that, you can just change that source underneath that one, and it just updates throughout everything. So that's sort of really, I think, kind of the way the industry is going. I think along those lines, because and bring us back around to what we're saying about AI. Like AI can use that. It can use components. It can't build like the mess that is the code that comes out of them.
The spaghetti code.
Yeah.
That's it. That is it. Well, I've taken up quite a long, over an hour of your time.
Yeah, I've been chatting on. Yeah.
No. I mean, if you're happy to chat, I could sit and talk. If there's anything else you want to cover, feel free. You're just making me edit quite a lot.
Yeah.
Just joking.
No, I need to go and chill out. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and it's been fun.
Well, thank you for accepting at such short notice. We'll say thank you for joining us, Mark. Sorry about Jay's technical issues.
Yeah, that's all right.
Hello again, Email Geeks. Me again, post-production Stephen. I just wanted to say a big thank you for listening to our podcast and supporting us so far. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover, or any suggestions, feedback, feel free to leave a comment or send a message to me directly. I'm on the Email Geek Slack. And that being said, have a good day.